everybody. So glad you're here today. We have a panel of great ladies with us today, and I thought we would just start by introductions. So, Yvonne.
Hello. Well, I'm Yvonne Kinzer, and I'm the head of digital marketing for Avocados from Mexico. Throughout my career, I have tried every single area of marketing. I have worked for multi-billion dollars organization like American Airlines, for example. I have been in the advertising industry with McCann Erickson, Lintas. I have been in small startups from digital agencies that are started with 10 people to technology startups. And then I have been with Avocados from Mexico since 2014. At some point, I realized that is the best of all worlds where I am right now, because it is a startup, very solid, with a great team, still small enough where we can innovate very quickly. And I was called to build the digital practice from the ground up. Have been doing so since 2014, and I oversee every area of digital marketing, including search, programmatic, paid media, web development, social media, data analytics, and everything, and technology integration, and everything that has in any way involved the small screen. And happy to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for coming, and hope you enjoy the session today.
Hello, how are y'all? My name's Jana Boone. I work at Bottle Rocket, which is a local company right down the street. It's the big copper building. You've probably seen it on the tollway. Hopefully you've noticed the logo when you're driving by in traffic. Anyways, I am in charge of marketing there. So marketing at Bottle Rocket means lots of things. It means wearing lots of hats. It means doing lots of things, not being able to do everything. It means trying things. It means failing. It means doing kind of everything you can to just try and figure things out. I have a small team there as well. So I think I've kind of had to come to grips with the fact that you can't get everything done, and you kind of have to figure out a way to prioritize and figure out what works best. I have always been in pseudo-agency type marketing roles and business development roles, so it's really the only world I've ever known. Always had to kind of do the same thing, be scrappy, wear lots of hats, do lots of things, get it done.
Okay. Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Wards. I actually run the marketing department, the newly established marketing department at American First Finance, which is a fintech startup. We're in our, like I said, our toddler years, 5 years old. I was brought on about 6 months ago, to establish a marketing department, which I've done in a few other companies, started in a Marcom team. But my background's very diverse. I came from broadcast news, went into PR and event management, travel and tourism industry, and then wound up with medtech, fintech, and running my own agency. So now I've been brought back in to establish the first Marcom team to take the B2B market where we're currently playing and bring it into the B2C world, which is a very, very different playing field, as you all know. So yeah, and like you two said, wear lots of hats. I've got a very, very small team right now, so we're in our scrappy startup years. So there's 3 of us doing everything from all the digital marketing to all the PR to all the internal comms to all the social media, everything. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about today as we move forward.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here today. And I know that we have an audience that's very interested in medium-sized companies, if not small. So tell me, in your careers, what made you decide to go this way? What made you pick this company to work for? Based on your background, has big companies been something you wanted to aspire to? I mean, I know some of you started out in bigger places, but really what made you pick this company to work for?
So I think that I wish we will know how it is when we come out of school and we can go and after the organization that is perfect for us. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
No.
So we have to try and test. And I think that it's a very personal decision because it has to do with our personalities. And that, by the way, you get to know, you have a professional personality that you get to know after you work for a while. And I discovered that way ahead of my path that I'm not suited for large organizations with a lot of red tape because my drive is to discover new things and innovate and do what nobody else have done and push envelopes. And I have had, I think my turning point was one time that a boss in one of those large organizations asked me, "Why do you always want to change everything?" and I said, well, that's what is called innovation, but that's fine. So at that point, I think that it was a crossroad in my career where I say, I kind of know, I have a very good notion where I want to go. So I went, and something that I didn't mention before is that I was a consultant for a while. It was great because I get to make my own decisions. My clients were happy, but I thought that I want to do that, but I want the support of an organization behind me. And so I searched and went until I found the perfect organization for me. Doesn't mean that it will be perfect for everybody else. I'm very comfortable navigating chaos, and every small organization, startup has some chaos. I'm fine with that. I think that we can thrive in the chaos if we have enough, the right people with the right drive. So when I got to Avocados from Mexico, by the way, I was coming, I say in the fashion industry, airlines, advertising, fancy brands, and then they called me, the recruiter. I was in Hagar Clothing back then, and the recruiter of Avocados from Mexico called me out of the blue. And then she asked me if I'm interested in talking to Avocados from Mexico. And I say, avocado, what? What the heck am I going to do in avocados? And she encouraged me. She said, this is a different thing. I mean, talk to the president. It's a new startup. There's 3 people. It was 3 people back then before the first Super Bowl that we did 5 years ago. There's talk to the president. He has a really interesting vision of where he wants to take this organization. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But at least talk to him. And then I went, and I was really impressed. He had a vision of market a product the way you market a CPG. We was something completely different of what anybody else is doing. So he told me, and this is, I'm going to wrap up with this because the words he told me during that first interview not only sealed the deal, but became the foundation of what is Avocados from Mexico digital practice today, which has been very successful. And when he was telling me about the company, I told him, I'm fascinated by your vision, but I'm also intrigued, and I want to come clean. I have no experience whatsoever in your category or the product other than eating it. I don't know why me, how can I help? And he told me, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone that comes from a completely different industry with a fresh vision, no preconceived notion. This is how we did it, because what I want to do is what nobody else in the industry is doing. And that was it. And I haven't been happier in my career because I think that I found the perfect organization that is a perfect match for my skills, the type of drive that I have, and my personality.
So I would think that most people could agree, if you go from a bigger company to a smaller company, you do get to pivot. You do get to do more innovation, typically is the case. Now, some people don't like that. I mean, some people, a big company, I do my one thing and I do it very, very well. And that's great. But for those of us who get told often, why do you keep wanting to change it, and what's wrong? We've been doing this for 20 years. Why do we need to change it? And you get called in, and it's so nice to find companies that do appreciate that. So, Jana, do you find that to be the case at Bottle Rocket as well?
Yes, definitely. So, for sure. So the organizations that I've always worked in marketing and business development fashions have all been B2B, right? I've never worked in the B2C world, never done B2C marketing. All the organizations I've worked for have been approximately the same size, different kind of ages of or levels of their maturity, I guess, as an organization, but all basically relatively the same size. I'll call it medium. And they've all been founder-led. So that right there presents its own set of challenges. When you have a founder that has started this company, believes in this company, essentially it's their baby, it's their world. Our founder has even been known to say he doesn't even know where he starts in the company or he ends and the company begins. It's like all wrapped in together. So that presents its own set of challenges in trying to figure out how to advance and change as the company grows and changes, and find ways to try new things and start talking about new things and just doing things a little different than they've always been done, to your point. So what I like about it is I also like to wear a lot of hats. I like to do lots of different things. It's kind of a double-edged sword because I also like to get things done. And if you have lots of things to do, it's harder to get things done. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword being in an organization that's small with a small support staff. Again, you can't really move super quickly on lots of things, and some things you just have to know it's just not the skills that you have in-house to do. So you just got to figure something else out or find another way to do it. We're looking at hiring. Strangely, we're not really an agency. We're kind of an agency, but kind of not. We're really more of a software development company. So I've even been tapping outside parties to help with things that I just can't get people on. Like there's just not enough time in the day for us to get everything done. So that's my experience.
So along those lines, in talking about getting things done, Laura, how do you all prioritize? What's the most important thing, seeing as how controlling chaos can be something done in a smaller company? How do you all prioritize what needs to be done?
I think for us, because we are just doing a soft launch of B2C product and really making that shift from B2B to B2C, a lot of it is educating the C-level staff on what B2C means and how it's different than the B2B market, which was very successful for 5 years. So it's taking what's going to move the needle. Is this really going to tie back to our company goals? We could create a ton of content that's great, put it all out there. Is it really going to drive us back to those 4 company goals we have for this year? And that's kind of how I tend to prioritize. I also am kind of anal retentive about project management software.
So what do you use? So tell us what you use.
I've used a couple different things, but actually right now I'm using one based out of Israel. It's called Monday.com.
Oh, I've heard of it, yes.
It's fantastic. I mean, we've done really well. We do a whip sheet in there every day, so I report directly to the president, so he can go in and he can see what's going on, what's coming up next week. He can filter it by the 3 staff members, by deadlines, by what's completed. We can all have our own task lists in there.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's been really helpful to keep us on track, and we can prioritize in there as well. What's the hot projects that we have to get done versus, hey, this is a nice to have.
Right.
If we have time, let's work on it.
Great. Well, that's good to hear, because I know that that's very hard when you're working for a small company and you have to figure out all the spaghetti, as I call it, of which way everything goes, and it's so nice to have an organizational tool. Yvonne, do you have a special tool that you all use at Avocados that helps you all prioritize your projects?
I try several, but for some reason, we never, everybody gets to use the same tool. So unfortunately, I would love to that, and now you're saying Monday morning, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to try that. But It's just, I never get my agencies, my teams, everybody, so we use it one day and then we go back to emails, which is like impossible to manage at some point. Everybody knows in my teams that, hey, if I don't respond in a couple of days, text me or something, because I may not even see your email. It just I say my email is like a Twitter feed. It goes so fast. So, but yeah, I think that is very, very useful, and I'm going to keep trying, because I think that we all, in the corporate world, we lost control of our inboxes, and that is absolutely necessary.
So wanted to touch on some questions that had been posed to us in some surveys. So some interesting things that people want to hear from you all. So what would you consider your best thing your company has done in marketing that you really felt hit the mark? You labeled it as successful, and however you define success, it may not be as big of KPIs as maybe Pepsi and all those hit, but what was the most successful, and give us one or two KPIs that you're very proud of. Jenna, would you like to answer?
So being in the B2B world, it's a little bit different in terms of KPIs. So everything we do, and let me also just say, marketing at Bottle Rocket is very tied to business development, right? So, and that's been the case in a lot of the companies that I've worked in, where it's kind of all really one and it's all smushed together and you don't know where one starts and the other one ends. So marketing and business development are very closely tied together. So pretty much anything we do is supposed to drive leads, right? It's supposed to drive leads into the funnel so that then the salespeople and the other people that are good at the relationship stuff take those leads and then turn them into business, right? So the things that have been the most successful for us, I don't know if I can quantify them one-to-one and with an actual KPI metric, like you can a lot of types of marketing, have been anything that helps us build relationships, right? So we found that when we can have what we call orchestrated intimacy or small conversations with potential buyers of our services, that's where we win. We win in situations where we can get people into our building, or we can have conversations with them, talk about what's going on in their world, listen to them, learn from them, and really just build deep relationships. That's really what's worked for us. So we tend to do, from a marketing perspective, things like partner with various organizations around town, offer up, we have a really, really great space at Bottle Rocket. This is not a commercial for the space, but there's a really, really great space there that we open up to anybody and everybody that wants to use it. So there's always a meetup. Again, it's a software development company for the most part, so there's always a meetup happening there. There's always some organization that's leveraging our space to come in and host an event. We do things with the Dallas Regional Chamber, the local chamber here in Addison, even organizations like the French American Chamber, things like that. So anytime we can get people into our building to actually meet our people and have conversations and see our space, if you see our space, you really can understand how we work. We work very publicly. We're like, if you were asking me my project management tool, it's all whiteboard, because everything around us is whiteboard. So I write everything on the whiteboard, literally everything. Anyways, that's really what we focus on, is a lot of things that drive relationships. It's not necessarily all the crazy marketing tactics that you think about when you think about like a marketing plan. Ours tends to be a little softer and a little more relationship driven.
Well, and I think that's great, because it really shows that thinking about it differently. And again, that could be what we like about being at small companies. We get to think about it differently because you don't have the budget, you don't have the money to do that. So Laura, how do you all think about things differently at American First Financial?
I haven't been there that long. Well, for me, right now, it's just making that shift, that mind shift of B2B, where you're saying it is very relationship-based. Our salespeople are out in stores, and, we're in the retail point of sale system. And so it's taking that going, wait a minute, we have this financial solution for retailers and merchants, but what do we offer consumers? Mm-hmm. And so it's really kind of taking a step back going, okay, so if we're going to do this direct-to-consumer product, which is a loan product, what's in it for them? Mm-hmm. And so it's really trying to educate people, going, no, we're not going to push information on them. I fully believe the pull marketing and finding value in how you're going to change someone's life and how does that impact it. You're not going to sell me on anything. I've been in the business too long. So you tell me what your product can do for me and how it can change my life, and you might have a customer. So it's a bit of education for people internally, and a lot of our sales staff, because they don't get it, they're very, that belly-to-belly sales, the guy in your face and tell you all the great things we can do for you.
But getting back to that value story is really crucial in a smaller environment.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You have to be very clear on what it is that you can do for somebody and don't deviate from it, because there's so many different opinions and it's very subjective. Marketing can be subjective when you don't know, when you're not in the industry.
Sure.
And so even just doing a 2020 plan with our executives, they're like, okay, you're talking about a funnel. I'm like, please tell me you know what a funnel means.
Maybe,
okay.
maybe not.
Yeah, and it was like, content creation. What do you mean by content? Oh, okay. Okay.
How far back do we have to go to talk
And
about
so it
these
is, and
things?
it's just a lot of education, and it's bringing them along with you. And even the small staff I have, I can see the frustration. It's like, but you know what? Hey, we're going to get them there. We're going to get them there, and what we're going to do is going to move the needle and show them what we're capable of.
Well, I think that's a great point. Yvonne was talking with us earlier, and we were discussing how do you plan and how do you decide what to do. Being a smaller company or mid-sized company, you can't do everything. So I loved Yvonne's point of how you all plan. Very, very good for your projects.
I want to share a story before that ties to this that is very funny, so you see what is the mindset of a small organization, even when we're kind of mid-sized. But most of you may know already, this is our 6th year that we're going with a Super Bowl spot. And you may think, well, Super Bowl is like major leagues, we don't play in those, and it's not relevant for us, but think about this. The Super Bowl for us, for a company like us, where we compete with Budweiser, Doritos, Pepsi, Coke, it's the same that I will tell you that you will compete with a large organization. It's the same, but there's apples and oranges. We wouldn't even been able to play in that space if we wouldn't be because of the mindset, is not the money. So what we have been the top Super Bowl campaign in digital for 5 consecutive years, and is absolutely not, we may have 1% of the budget that the other brands we play with, but it's the mindset, and I will love to share an example with you. The first year, we did in the second, we didn't have enough budget to hire influencers like celebrities like the other brands did for digital. I'm talking about digital. So what we did is we start recruiting nano influencers. Anyone in this room could be one. But we had 100,000. So those nano influencers were so powerful, were more powerful than any multi-million-dollar celebrity. But imagine this scenario. We were, first of all, our KPI is awareness. So the first year, the same thing that I thought when they called me for avocados from Mexico. What is avocado from Mexico? The same thing consumers say, yes. And they didn't know what is the avocados, 80% of the avocados you're eating all year. But we needed to raise awareness. So we start building this network of nano influencers to compete with the big celebrities. The industry has some tools that measure the conversation in real time. So everybody in our team could see in real time what brand, Budweiser, Coke, Doritos, Pepsi, was dominating the conversation. So every time that other brand was dominating the conversation with their super celebrities, we will engage our 100,000 nano influencers, people with 100 followers, 200 followers, and you will see that bar coming whoosh, and win. But then, the stories of a small company. It's a Saturday morning before the Super Bowl, and I have my boss is from Costa Rica, and he texts him, Chica, Hyundai is coming, and it's almost, winning. And I say, okay, let me activate the micro-influencers. 2 hours later, hey, such and such is coming. It's too close. Can you activate that? Yes, let me activate.
Oh my gosh. All day long?
Right, yeah. Technically, because we have a platform that we manage those, and it sends an automatically, and it's called Social Toaster, since we're sharing.
Yes.
Social Toaster, very, very affordable. And they just manage the influencers or the brand ambassadors that you have there. They manage it for you guys at a fee per month that is very affordable. And I only have to send them an email or a text, say, hey, can you send them an email again and ask them to share again. So they will do that, and every single time we will completely kill it. And we end up being number one, ahead of, again, the same brands. I'm very proud of, say, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Budweiser, avocado from Mexico, and it was the big headlines of the media. Avocado from Mexico dominates the conversation. And what was behind the scenes, it was just a small company, very scrappy, trying to just win a battle with contenders much bigger than us. But the moral of the story is, it's not the money, it's the mindset.
That's great to hear, because I know so many of us struggle with, oh, that's going to cost us a lot of money. We can't do that. We need to hire an influencer. We need Gary Vaynerchuk, and nobody can afford him except for big brands. So glad to hear the nano influencers. I know micro influencers are really hot right now, which maybe have 100,000 followers or more. So we're interested to hear and see your spot in the Super Bowl this year. There will be one.
Great,
Yes, all right. Yay, we'll watch. Yes. So we were talking earlier, and these are all great things. Love to hear all the programs that you all use. Thank you for sharing and helping us out with our smaller companies. So let's talk about something fun. So why don't you, would anyone like to share something that didn't go well?
I get brought in to launch a B2C product with no research. No research whether it's even needed or wanted in the market.
You're just going to do it, right?
Just a founder and a president who, it's going to work. I'm sure it'll work.
Right.
It's great. Okay.
So that was a good conversation.
That was very good. We did it, soft launch. We beat our KPIs. So for the financial industry, we did, but it's very difficult to do anything when you don't know who your target market is. You don't know who you're talking to. You can't be conversational. You can't personalize. It's just like your spaghetti reference.
Yes.
Throw it up, see if it sticks. So a lot of that, I've gone back and said, okay, we don't know who we're talking to. We don't know who we're trying to even engage with. And it's just, it might have been a one-hit wonder, but we've got to go back and do this research. So we've managed to get a small budget. And again, a very, very small budget that we're working with. And I always reference it as champagne taste on a beer budget, because I don't have a budget.
But you all did a good job of talking someone into it, right? I mean, seriously,
We did.
You had to have crucial conversations, obviously.
Very, very much so. And once you educate people, and the CEO and the founder, on the relevance of it, they didn't understand even having a brand was important.
Right, which
So-
can be true in a smaller organization.
They do.
Someone who's grown their business, they realize they can go out and make sales, but do they need that brand behind it? And that's where I
Yes.
struggle with my clients, is like, I don't know that I need that, but it is
And
true.
it doesn't happen overnight either.
Right.
It's a very
No.
methodical, let's build this brand, and it's going to take 6 months to a year to really develop everything. And that's not what they want to hear.
No.
So, but we do have some audience research now, and talking about tools again, SurveyMonkey has that audience research where you
Right,
can
right.
actually go out, and it's so cheap. And you can, 5 questions, at least it gives you something to work on. We have an internal data science team, and so they've never been asked the marketing questions. So I'm like, I need to know this. I think we have that.
All
I'm
right.
like, oh, okay, that's great. I need to, here's my list of things that I need. We've never been asked this before. Okay, well, just get me the data now, please.
Thank you.
So,
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, and thank you for sharing your tool as well, because I know that a lot of people are looking for those that are cheap to find, but very user-friendly. Anyone else want to ante up?
So I have one that we were talking about when we were there. So we made very few mistakes because our planning process it lasts 6 months. So we started the pre-planning, analyzing what worked, what didn't. Then we start with, based on that, this is the new ideas we have for next year. Then we start analyzing those ideas. So by the time that the idea is ready to come to life, we already thought about that for 6 months. And any flaw, we already saw it. So what the ideas that survive through that long process are very, very solid. But it happened once, a long time ago. And again, when you move fast, you break things. And sometimes we need to move fast. And we have this campaign that we wanted to use user-generated content. And we went through this platform, very recognized, great credentials. It was in Silicon Valley with very good, solid talent behind. So it was solid. However, there was one small detail that we didn't consider, and the learning was you never give your brand assets to users that are going to produce user-generated content and post it on their platforms, because you have no control of their platform. So we did that mistake, and it was the only time that we have rushed through something, and we launched it. So we put the assets out there for the users the content creators to pick them up and produce their own videos with avocados from Mexico. It still gives me chills when I remember. But so fast forwarding, I will tell you, there was like several really bad cases, but I tell you the worst. Imagine a video with a woman hitching avocados. Hitching, like sitting almost on top of the avocados and with half of her behind showing in the video and her beautiful logo right there next to her. And my boss, the CEO, will tell me, take it down. And I say, I can't. It's in her YouTube channel. I even call YouTube. I say, please, I pay you. Pay her. Pay her in our behalf so she can take it down, and say, we cannot do that. So I'm afraid to look, but that may still be there. Luckily, through 5 years, we have put enough content out there to outpower that one, but that may still be there. So the lesson was very well learned, and it's okay when you present an idea and other people will question it and try to kill it, poke holes. Yeah. That is very uncomfortable, and I hate that. But I learned that is in my best interest to share with colleagues and even the most negative colleagues, because they are going to poke holes that you need. If it's going to explode, you want it to explode before it goes live.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the devil's in the details. I'm sure you all never thought of that could happen. And these things, that's when it does happen, is when you don't think through it and you're too much in a hurry to do it. So no one go and look for that video, because we don't want it to come up on YouTube. I know. Okay, don't look.
I'm not going to give you the hashtag, because with the hashtag you may be able to find it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she shared that story and I just went, oh yeah, I'm sure that was a painful day. Jana, would you like to share any fun mishaps that we learn a lot from when we make mistakes?
I don't have anything like that, for sure.
Okay, good.
For sure.
They're perfect over there at Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, no. Not saying that at all, but no, it's a totally different world, obviously, when you're in the services space and the B2B world. So we don't plan for 6 months. We plan for about 5 minutes. And then, but for real, a little more than that, but not much. We do, try and at least have some direction that we're going to go, and some things that we're going to do, and some things that we're going to take a cognizant effort to try and see what happens. So we definitely don't have a long planning phase like that. So things do, fail from time to time. Again, going back to what I said before, I think the things that are the most non-impactful for us in our business are the things that are not in those smaller places where actual relationships can happen, right? So we've done a number of large-scale huge industry conferences where 4 bazillion people come and walk through trade show booths. Like, that does not work for us. Booths don't work for us. Giant conferences don't work for us. It's just too hard to find the people that we want to find. It's too hard to get to the people that we want to get to. We do a lot better off if we reach out to the people that we want to meet with and invite them to our space, or plan an event in their city and invite them with a speaker, or host a breakfast, or do something like that again brings together small, and I mean like from 3 to 30 type people together to actually have real conversations where you can actually get to know somebody and actually get to learn about what their true challenges are from an organizational perspective, what their business is facing, what value then we can bring to them as a company. You just can't do that in the large, giant spaces. For us, it doesn't work. I know it works for a lot of people, but not for our business.
So that works better, certainly that more intimate kind of conversation versus big, where people think, oh, we should sponsor something big and be a part of it. It didn't work well, right, to get those kind of clients that you need, certainly. So live and learn on those things. I certainly have done those things myself, thinking what great return on the investment, and you stand there and go, wow, that was a lot of money, and we certainly didn't benefit from that, right? So definitely feel your pain with that. So one or two more questions I have for you. I suppose partnerships are very, very important. I mean, I know partnerships are important for my company. Anyone want to speak to partnerships and relationships and how you all do that to benefit your business as far as to get to your KPIs or anything that you all plan to do?
So in our business, partnerships are a day-to-day thing. We love partnerships. We do partnerships with people, with influencers, small, large, but also we do partnership with brands. One example that comes to my mind that was, I will say, one of the most valuable partnerships was with Frito-Lay. We had our logo. One thing that we lack is a package. We don't have a package, and package is a more valuable real estate for a marketer. And by partnering with Frito-Lay, we got to have our logo in their chips, the package of their chips. So that was, we celebrate. My CEO has the package in his office in a frame. I mean, that was a moment, and that is some accomplishment of our shopper team. But the moral here also is that partnerships are important. The same with people and human relationships. We need other people, other brands, other partners to make us stronger, because we have strength, but we have weakness, and so have our partners. So in the case of Frito-Lay, they want the space in the grocery store where avocados is, because the fresh produce area is on tap territory for CPG. So they want our space, we brand them their package, and I give you this, you give me that. So any kind of partnership at any level, we embrace them, and we value them very, very much, because help us to go to the next level where we cannot go on our own.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Jenna?
Yeah, so partnerships in my world are also very different. So partnerships for us are two things. One, they are a potential lead source, right? So we align ourselves with partners that fit with what it is we do, right? So it's either a company, like for example, we build a lot of mobile applications, and there are lots of things that you need to make a mobile application successful, right? So there might be a push notification partner. There might be an analytics and measurement tracking partner, all the different things, right? So we align ourselves with partners like that. So for a couple of reasons. One, for lead generation, they're pursuing the same kinds of companies and the same type of people and have the same buyers that we have, and it makes sense a lot of times for us to partner up and talk to different organizations together. And then the second thing is, we are able to expand what it is we can do for our clients via our partners, right? So it makes our offering set more holistic. We are a subsidiary of a large advertising agency, Ogilvy, which rolls up under the WPP header, which is the giant conglomerate out of Europe. But anyways, what's really great for us, like we consider Ogilvy a partner, right? They're a parent company, but they're also a partner. So they come to us a lot of times and say, hey, we've got this client and we're doing ABC for them and we really need to do mobile and digital consulting, et cetera, for them. You guys do that. Let's come together and pursue this together. So it's lead generation for us, and it's just an expansion of the types of services that we can provide, almost putting ourselves in like a general contractor place where we can almost orchestrate lots of things together because of all of the relationships and the partnerships that we have in place.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're getting close to time, and we just have one more question before we open it to the floor. And I love this question. I was just at a conference, and I thought it was very, very apropos, and I love that every presenter was asked this question. And my question to you all ladies today is, what could this audience take back this afternoon and do? What would you offer to them as advice for them to help them in their marketing for their company this afternoon? What would you recommend?
I would say, for me, it's a creative brief that I brought that. We're very lax on processes. It's one thing I firmly believe in. The creative brief, it's just kind of a contract of what do you want to have happen? What are your goals for this piece, this project, whatever it is that you're looking for? Where's it going to live? How's it going to be used? Where else does it fit in? Can it be, repurposed other places? And then you move forward with that, and everyone, all the stakeholders sign off on it. You know who your approvers are. You know who your reviewers are. You know who your SMEs are that you can go and ask questions. And then you refer back to that and say, hey, yes, I know you want to change this or add this. That's a bit of scope creep. Let's go back to the creative brief. This is what we want to do. This is the goal we want to hit. By changing that, are we adding another goal? Are we doing something else? Maybe then that's another project, So let's get this one over the mark. Let's measure this one and then tweak it going forward. I firmly believe in creative briefs.
No, that's great, because that really does, you agreed at this time to do this, and that really can help outline. Perfect. I know in medium-sized companies, processes are what probably are lacking, or even in small. And so instituting that is a great way to keep everyone on track. Perfect. Jana, what would you like to offer?
I would say find some data that will support the story that you're trying to tell, right? So as a services organization, we're obviously selling professional services and the development of building of things and digital consulting and things like that. But we have this larger perspective about what's happening in the world around us. And we oftentimes, when we go into a meeting, we'll tell the story of, starting at the very top, disruption happening in the world. Here's what's happening. Consumers are changing, businesses are changing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for the longest time, I had a hard time trying to get my head around the best way to articulate that story in a way that the receiver of the story, based on whoever's presenting it, would actually resonate with. And one thing that really helped me, since we don't have a bunch of money and we don't have our own research studies and we don't have our own research, et cetera, was to go out and find studies that were out there that were supportive of the story that I'm trying to tell, right? So I happened across a really great Salesforce study, as well as a really great Forrester article, and those, the data and the statistics and the support that are in those two articles basically tell our whole story for us. Does that make sense? So it's more of us standing up and having a position or a perspective, as opposed to being like, you need to listen to me because I made this data and I have this research. And it's so much more impactful to be able to say, this is our perspective and this is our approach, and look at all of these different data sources that are backing up saying exactly what we're saying, that then leads into why we do the services that we do.
No, that's great, because you just really have more ammunition, and just it's more respectful from other companies, not just your own. And you may not even have your own department to do the research, so that's great. Yvonne?
I believe every company has a different way to do things, different processes, very unique way in their DNA to do things. But I believe there's something to apply that applies to all, and it's the power of visualization. And I'm not talking about visualization, this ethereal thing in a monastery or something. I'm talking about like business visualization. And if there's something that works for me all the time, every single time is that. And I give you practical examples. Here at Avocados from Mexico, because we are at such a unique business doing things differently, the media usually pick up our stories when they think that are interesting because it's new, it's different. So I create that habit of visualizing by visualizing the headline. Some media will pick this up and say this. And then from that headline, I start reverse engineering how I'm going to get there. One example is in the past Super Bowl, I usually, and I talk a lot about this campaign, but it's the campaign that is the highest profile. There's not a lot of investment, believe me. But it's, I thought I want to bring a technology piece, whatever it is, the technology that makes a good media to pick it up and say this headline. So I plan the headline, and then I start looking for the technology. And we brought Watson from IBM. It cost, we spent $2,000, and I can explain how we did that. We spent $2,000 to integrate that technology. Fast Company, the magazine, Fast Company pick it up and says, hey, guess what? Avocados from Mexico and artificial intelligence could win the Super Bowl, and they explain how we use that artificial intelligence in our strategy. That was great. That was my headline in my mind, accomplished, but it got even better. Someone at IBM read by coincidence, because we didn't do the deal with IBM, which is through their website, and IBM, they read it and they were so impressed. They call us and say, how did you do this? This is so creative. And then they publish it in their newsletter that you won't believe this. Avocados from Mexico is using Watson, this and that. And everything, all that happened, and the idea that came to be the foundation of our digital campaign came visualizing what is the end that we want to accomplish, and the organic impressions, by the way, that came with those $2,000.
Well, that's great. So just visualizing the end and backing out of it.
Right.
So really, what is your goal? This is it. Visualize it and then back out.
Right. And that's just an example, but we apply that all the time at every level.
That's perfect. Great. Great takeaways.
Right up here in the front.
So thank you for your panel discussion. It was really interesting. As you know, in a lot of small companies, you'll find that the culture of the company is led by sales. And so when they finally decide, hey, we need a marketing department, and they hire a marketing person, you come into a culture where they think that you will be able to generate leads immediately. And how have you gone about situations where you've had to educate the C-suite that it takes content and education, and you have to give prospects something that is valuable to them, and then nurture that, and it takes time to nurture that, and then the leads will come in and they won't be junk leads? Are there specific tactics or anything that you could? Thank you.
I feel your pain. I think for me, it all came to light in the 2020 planning process, where sales was just these high level, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to bring in this much revenue, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I think they took a step back on, oh, wait, you drive revenue too? And I was like, yes, we do. So it was really I had to really go into not just the strategies, but the tactics as well, and explain to them pull versus push marketing, and that's all they'd been doing is pushing out. I'm like, that's not where it is. And I pulled data. I mean, that really is, we don't have an internal research department, team, person, anything. So I spent hours really finding stats to back it up, and really doing the funnel, taking the funnel and going, hey, this is where content lives, and here's your sales funnel. This is what happens. Tying it back to them to they use They don't use Salesforce. I think they use a sugar CRM. So really having to tie it back to them, and then, but look, this is what we can do now. We can do nurturing campaigns here. This is going to tie it back. You can do a white paper, have them download it. They're going to come to you then, and it's a warm lead versus a cold lead. And you have to kind of talk their language and connect the dots for them, because they know sales, they don't know marketing. And so they don't, not necessarily they don't see the value in it, they don't understand it. So it is about that education, but really kind of connecting the dots for them and using that data to back it up.
You know, I want to add to that. You're not alone in this. I think that happens to everyone. It happens even in marketing organizations. We don't sell avocados, we market avocados, and it happens to me all the time. So, like exactly with leads, because we also have one strategy to get consumer leads, and I had a very, very aggressive goal of this many leads, and I have a budget, it's limited. So what I discovered that works really good for me is to present an A-B comparison situation. And is that, yes, with this budget, because the budget doesn't stretch out, we're going to get this many leads at 50 cents. But give me this piece of budget to get these good leads at $4, so whatever is the cost. And then let's test what is the value of those leads post-campaign. And then you can show, this is the cheap leads, they are gone. I mean, they unsubscribe or whatever. And this is the good leads, were more expensive, but the return in a long term is better. So that same exercise, I do it all the time, is yes, let's do what you want, but let me one piece do what I recommend, and then we compare. And at the end, it's a slow process, but in the long term, that's a good way to educate them.
All right. Who else has a question? Raise your hand. Oh, here we go.
Again, thank you all for your insightful stories and sharing with us today. My question is, and I'm sure there are others that probably have the same question, when you all are looking at entering into a potential sponsorship or partnership with, whether it's an individual, a company, what is it that sets one company or individual apart from another?
You're probably asking about it not in the way that I'm going to answer it, but I can tell you, I think for us, from a partnership perspective, it has to do with finding what we think is the best-in-class option for whatever the thing is that they do, right? So there are lots of people out there that do, A. There are lots of people out there that do B. We did a pretty thorough vetting process to figure out, go through their training. Again, I'm talking about technology products. So go through their training, learn their systems, meet their people, look at what they've got from a client perspective. Who are they working with? That's how we vet our partnerships, just decide which one, if we had to stand up, if we had to say, okay, we're going to recommend to our client that you guys take this entire package of things, who would we put in all those places, and who would we actually want to attach to ourselves and our brand that's actually going to be the best option for the client, because that obviously would reflect on us if we're the ones that are making the recommendations for all these kind of add-ons, if you will, in the form of partnerships. May not be what you're asking, but it's my perspective. Okay.
All right, other questions? Come on, you've got their undivided attention. There we go.
How much attention do you pay to larger competitors and what they're doing with their marketing?
In our case, the ones that are considered our competitors, we don't consider them our competitors, which is avocado from other origins. But for us, our competitors is because we have 80% of the market share. But for us, our competitors, because our strategy is a basket strategy, it's not a household penetration, but a share of wallet strategy. We compete with tomatoes, with bacon, with anything that is going to be part of that basket. In our case, we keep an eye on them, but we don't react to whatever they do. We think that, feel very confident that we have enough data, that we have enough knowledge of our consumers to get our message across regardless of what they do. So for us, no competitor make us change our strategy except when my CEO takes me on a Saturday, just hurry up, do something because this one is coming behind, but that's the only time we react.
Ours is a little different too. Our competitive set is pretty broad, as you can imagine, because there's lots of different companies out there that do pieces and parts of all the things that we do. So looking at all of our competitors would be really, really hard to do, to be completely frank, and keeping up with all of them. There are definitely ones that jump out. I tend to pay attention to content more than anything, being in the B2B space. I like to see what other people are talking about, how they're talking to their customers, how they're describing their services, how they're describing their value proposition, things like that. I pay attention to those kinds of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that we react to how they're doing it. Maybe I do react because I try and come up with something that's different, and even if we're doing the exact same things as an organization, I try and find a different way to actually talk about that, or a different angle or a different lens that we might be taking that makes our perspective different from theirs. But if you ask my founder that question, he would say, don't pay attention to them, that's their journey, not ours.
All right, I think we've got one more question up here in the front.
Hello, this question is for Yvonne. My question is, since you're doing all these type of campaigns in the Super Bowl or digital media and everything, I mean, I do sometimes events and I always try to find sponsors in that. But in the case of avocados from Mexico, what is your main, how do you fund these campaigns in order, I mean, to be like in the Super Bowl? Do you have like, what is this money coming from with the sponsors?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because especially after I say that we don't sell avocados, we're not from Mexico either, which is surprising, but I explained. So we are a marketing organization, and we're a marketing organization that was created by two different organizations in two different countries. So it's the growers and exporters of avocados from Mexico in Mexico, and the importers and distributors of avocados from Mexico in the United States. They realized they were trying to market one product without a marketing team and from two different directions. So they agreed to get together, create a marketing firm, that is us, 5 years ago, and then go to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and ask them to become the managers of that program. So in simple way to explain, we're a non-profit organization, part of the program, one of the programs of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and 0.2 cents per pound of avocados that enters in the U.S. Goes to that marketing program, and that's our marketing funds.
All right, can we have another round of applause for our panelists and Jamie, our moderator? Thank you guys so much.